From the outside, we seemed perfect. My mother, Uriel, always poised, graceful, in complete control. Coleman, her husband, charismatic and seemingly flawless. And me, the quiet daughter coming back home after college. But behind the carefully polished exterior, everything was far from what it looked like. Sighs, desire, and temptation lurked in the shadows, quietly twisting our family bonds. The man I was supposed to call stepdad became something entirely different, something forbidden. I never intended for it to happen. I never wanted to hurt my mother. But once the line was crossed, there was no going back. This is the story of how our family fell apart and how I ended up being the person I never thought I could be. Welcome to... For those new here, I'm glad you're joining. If you've been with me before, thank you for coming back. Let's dive in. Has everyone always said we were the perfect family? My mom, Uriel Coleman, with his charming smile and commanding presence, and me, the obedient daughter. We looked like we'd stepped right off a magazine cover, but no one saw what really happened behind the scenes. My smile at dinner parties and carefully staged social media posts was never genuine. The cracks in our family were there, but they were invisible to everyone else, until it was too late. Uriel married Coleman when I was 17. I was still reeling from losing my father, his absence echoing through the halls of our home. Then Coleman appeared, confident, charming, almost too smooth, stepping in like he was meant to fill the space my dad had left. I resented how easily he fit in. I hated the way he called me kiddo, acting like that small kindness earned him points, but what I despised most was how my mother seemed to blossom around him. She laughed more, dressed with extra care, smiled with ease in a way she never had with my dad. By the time I turned 21, I had returned home after college, and I was no longer the quiet girl. I had curves, opinions, a sharpness in my tone that caused constant friction with my mother. Arguments about my clothes, my late nights, my dating life became routine. She labeled me reckless, I called her controlling. Coleman, meanwhile, seemed to drift between us, always the peacemaker, saying things like, "You're just like your mom." With a casual glance that lingered a little too long, it started with little moments, compliments that felt unusually personal, subtle observations about my life. When my mother worked late, he noticed the way I changed my hair or cooked my eggs. One evening, while my mom was away at a work event, I was watching a thriller in the living room when Coleman wandered in. He wore a fitted t-shirt and sweatpants, sat beside me, knees nearly touching. "I always thought you had good taste in movies," he said, grabbing popcorn from my bowl. I laughed and teased him about liking rom-coms instead. He leaned back, relaxed, but there was tension, thick, almost tangible. My pulse raced, not just from the movie, but from him. I hated that I felt this way, yet I couldn't deny the pull. As days passed, the tension grew. A glance here, a word there, each small interaction carrying a weight I wasn't ready to acknowledge. One morning, I wore a tank top with no bra, just to see his reaction. He saw, he noticed, but said nothing. The intensity in his eyes said it all. I should have felt guilty, but instead, there was a rush of power in being seen, in feeling chosen, even if it was by the one man I was never supposed to want. Weeks went by like that, a game of silent acknowledgement and unspoken tension. One afternoon, I was sunbathing by the pool when I caught him watching from the patio, drink in hand, eyes fixed on me. I didn't look away as I turned slowly, untied the strings of my bikini deliberately. He came outside, voice low and unreadable. "You should be careful, Chelsea. Someone might get the wrong idea." I met his gaze over my sunglasses. "Who says it's the wrong idea?" He didn't respond, but he stayed. In that moment, everything changed. Not a single word mattered as much as the electricity between us. The line was crossed, and I didn't want to go back. Not for my mother, not for anyone. The pretending ended that day. Coleman and I fell into a rhythm, one we never spoke about, but that everyone could feel. Every touch carried meaning, every word, even the most casual, hinted at a fire burning just beneath the surface. We became performers in a private play that no one else could see, acting out our desires right under the nose of the woman we were betraying. Uriel sighs. She moved through life with such confidence, early mornings, tight schedules, high-pressure meetings, always in control. Nothing could shake her, or so it seemed. But while she ran her world flawlessly, a storm was quietly brewing at home. It started small, a brush of his hand on my back, fingers grazing mine when we reached for the same dish. Too long to be an accident, too subtle to be obvious. And yet I craved those tiny moments more than I wanted to admit. Exhale sharply. The first time it really happened was past midnight. Uriel had gone out of town for a weekend conference, leaving the house empty except for the two of us. The silence was thick, almost alive as we lingered in the kitchen. I had just poured myself a glass of wine when I turned, and there he was, closer than ever. "You have no idea what you do to me," he murmured. I didn't answer. I just looked at him, daring him, and then he kissed me. Fast, rough, as if all the weeks of restraint shattered at once. My glass nearly tipped over as he pulled me in, hands on my waist, my back pressed to the counter. I let him. I wanted it. I had never felt more seen, more desired. That night, the kitchen counter was enough. We didn't need a bed. I lay awake later, heart racing, not feeling guilt, but an electrifying sense of power. Something that should never have been mine felt entirely, intoxicatingly mine. When Uriel returned, glowing from her meetings and hotel dinners, I couldn't meet her gaze. It wasn't regret I felt. It was the weight of a secret she didn't know, something raw and real. Coleman acted like nothing had changed, smiling, polite, unshakable. But when his eyes met mine across the room, there was a fire that hadn't existed before. We became experts at hiding it. Whispered conversations while she showered, quick kisses before I drove off, coded messages hidden in mundane texts. "You left your notebook in the living room." Translation: "I'm thinking about last night." "Dinner was amazing." Translation: "You looked irresistible in that dress." One night, recklessness took over. He pulled me into the guest bathroom, locked the door, and whispered against my neck, "I shouldn't want you like this, but I do, every second." I wrapped my arms around him, addicted to the thrill. It wasn't just the danger of being caught, it was how he made me feel. Seen, important, alive in a way my mother never made me feel. I rationalized it by imagining Uriel as distant, too wrapped up in success to notice the life slipping away under her roof. I dressed to catch his gaze, to make him notice, and it worked. Each stolen glance, each fleeting touch made the thrill grow. But living on fire always has a cost. The excitement turned heavy, a stone pressing on my chest. We became careless. Uriel began noticing small things, the lingering looks, the questions about why I was out or why Coleman wasn't in bed. The shift was subtle but undeniable. And a part of me, dark and twisted, wanted her to discover the truth, to shatter the illusion she clung to so tightly. When the moment finally came, it was devastating. A rainy Thursday evening, the house scented with her rosemary chicken, Uriel laughing at her phone while Coleman poured wine. Then she looked at me, calm and terrifying. "Chelsea, how long have you been sleeping with my husband?" The room went silent, the air heavy, impossible. Coleman froze. I stammered, denying it, but she didn't waver. She listed the signs, every look, every touch. Anger, hurt, betrayal, it was all there in her eyes. She stormed out, slamming the bedroom door behind her, leaving a weight in the air we couldn't escape. The days afterward were a blur. Silence haunted the house. Uriel wouldn't speak to either of us. Coleman tried, but there was nothing left to mend. Eventually, she told me to leave. I packed quietly, stealing one last glance at the life I had broken. Coleman and I shared a final moment of locked eyes, no words, no touch, just a quiet, burning farewell. I moved into a small apartment near campus, quiet and empty. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had stopped, if I had said no. But then I remember how alive it made me feel, how powerful, how wanted. I don't fully regret it. There's a scar, yes, one that will never fully heal, but I live with it. Betrayal doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait. It just happens, and when the curtain falls, you're left alone in the dark, questioning if the world ever truly applauded you at all. Have you ever imagined yourself in a situation like this? What would you have done? Subscribe to Inside Her Heart for more raw, emotional, and unforgettable stories like this.